We're a little over halfway through the NFL season.
By one game.
By one game, yep. So we are going to go through our midseason awards, if you will. And we're going to start things off with the MVP. Yeah. And we have reaction polls for each one, too. So we want you folks at home to weigh in. So who is your midseason MVP? Your options are Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, Alex Smith, or perhaps somebody else. I did see a couple of commenters throwing in Carson Wentz.
I think Carson Wentz makes perfect sense here. I think he seems to be the general public's preferred option. I believe, and I've mentioned this many a time before, Cam, if Drew Brees makes it to the playoffs with this Saints team, he deserves the MVP. And yes, it's partially a career MVP award because Drew Brees deserves to have one. So he's not the MVP quite yet because it's dependent on if the Saints make the playoffs. So he does not have my vote for midseason MVP. But I've been wildly impressed by Drew Brees and the Saints team. I like going with Drew Brees at the end of the year. But right now, it's between two guys, Carson Wentz and Tom Brady.
And this is your winner for the MVP. Mr. Thomas Brady, quarterback for the New England Patriots. You know, he's been a fixture in our MVP power rankings basically the entire season. He's been fantastic in many regards. He has had to carry this Patriots team in some of these games this year because that defense is just so suspect right now. And with Hightower out for the year, it's only going to get worse in the sense that Brady's going to have to carry more weight on his back.
The MVP in many of these awards is so often based on who exceeded expectations the most. And that's what you see with a guy like Carson Wentz. But you look at the team outside of the record, the Eagles do have one more win. The Eagles' defense has been vastly better to New England. They have the worst defense in the NFL.
That's right.
Carson Wentz does have 3 more passing touchdowns. But Brady's got 3 less interceptions, completing over almost 6% more of his passes, and has 500 more yards than Carson Wentz. So you look at it in a numbers perspective, and in terms of what he's done for his team, in terms of compared to the defense, Brady is the winner, and I wouldn't be surprised if the commenters want Carson Wentz, and if they think Wentz deserves it, and I think he is a worthy candidate. But the numbers in the team, it's Brady with the advantage, but it's always about, the expectations. And Brady, everyone expects Brady to be great. And that's where we come into issues.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point looking at the defense for Philadelphia, obviously much better than New England, especially in that front 7. So, Tom Brady, our MVP for midseason awards. Of course, it's midseason, Tom. So, folks at home, don't get too angry because the season isn't over. But
everything will change.
Yes. So, how about your midseason Defensive Player of the Year, ladies and gentlemen? You have a few options here. Calais Campbell, DeMarcus Lawrence, Everson Griffin, or somebody else. Throw in those reactions. We'll be tracking them. Obviously, those 3 guys right there, Griffin, Lawrence, and Campbell, Tom, big-time disruptors on the front line. Calais Campbell has had a fantastic season, leading the NFL in sacks right now. Or actually, DeMarcus Lawrence is. Calais Campbell is 2.
He was. Campbell had his bye.
That's right. Yep.
Just had his bye. It was Lawrence, Campbell when Lawrence was on his bye, and then Lawrence again.
So obviously 2 big-time players in the fronts for their respective teams in Jacksonville and Dallas. Who are you going with?
I am torn between Campbell and Lawrence. I will give you guys a hint. Lawrence will appear on another list. I think there's a very strong argument for DeMarcus Lawrence, but the team itself always matters. And the Jaguars' defense is better than the Cowboys' defense, and Calais Campbell has been the biggest factor as a part of that. A bunch of other guys on this list, Jalen Ramsey, Marshawn Lattimore, who we'll discuss later, but I think Campbell is a very fair winner.
And so let's bring up Mr. Calais Campbell. Has had a great year so far, 2 forced fumbles, 2 plays against the Cincinnati Bengals where you assume he will be feasting on that front line.
Oh, he's going to go
he's licking his chops.
Like the Bengals offensive line is putrid.
Yes.
Calais Campbell's going to light them up.
He is very excited for that game, and there could be like 11 sacks in that game. So.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance of that. Because the Bengals also, quietly under the radar, have had a very good year, and especially in terms of the pass rush.
So Calais Campbell, our Defensive Player of the Year in our midseason awards. How about the Coach of the Year? Few options here. You got Sean McVay, Doug Peterson, Sean McDermott, or somebody else. Well,
we have that somebody else, by the way.
Yeah, let's throw in a person that deserves to be in there, another name, but we'll get there. Who is your Coach of the Year, ladies and gentlemen? You got a Rams representative, a Philadelphia representative, and a Buffalo representative, all coaches that are having good seasons overall.
Our someone else, by the way, is Mike Zimmer. We'll update that here in just a second. Cam, you and I disagree on this. I will tell you that, and I understand what you're going for there. I am on the Sean McVay hype train right now.
Okay.
We'll get to the Rams later on as well. I have been so impressed by what Sean McVay has done this year. Taking a Rams team that was awful last year, making them into a legitimate playoff team. that he's got my vote, but I know you go a different direction.
I do. And I'm actually throwing up my crying face right now, and
Yeah.
he's actually our winner for Coach of the Year right now. Mike Zimmer, because you look at the adversity that he has battled this year with the quarterback situation. Teddy Bridgewater, we don't even know if he's going to come back this year. Sam Bradford has been dealing with a knee injury. Case Keenum has actually looked like an adequate quarterback at times this year, Tom. So you couple that with the fact that the defense has been fantastic. They've drafted beautifully the last few years. The Minnesota Vikings are a low-key elite team in the NFL, and I don't think people realize it. And a lot of it has to do with Mike Zimmer and his defensive prowess.
Look, I've been super impressed by the Vikings, and I think Mike Zimmer is one of the most underrated and best coaches in the NFL. Look, making Case Keenum into an actual quarterback, I think he deserves a lot of credit for. With the adversity he's faced this year and last year, I've been very impressed by Zimmer the past 2 seasons. I understand where you're going for. My pick is still on Sean McVay, but I'm good with it.
Okay, all right. Disagreement is good.
Yeah, that's fair.
Agree to disagree as we look at the Rookie of the Year options here. Deshaun Watson, Marshall Lattimore, and a couple of other options in Kareem Hunt. Someone else as well throwing up that crying face. So folks out there throwing those reactions, obviously Deshaun Watson really is more of a sentimental option here, Tom Downey, because he's done for the year with an ACL. So, people want to throw out their support for Deshaun Watson. Maybe they thought maybe he would get there and win the Rookie of the Year and kind of like projecting ahead of time. Perhaps that makes sense. So perhaps people want to throw out their hearts for Deshaun Watson because we certainly throw out our hearts with the situation with the ACL. But, of course, Kareem Hunt as well, another option too. So I actually have Kareem Hunt as the winner for Rookie of the Year because of his performance so far this season. Look, there is some semblance of maybe a wall that he's hitting, but I'm not ready to believe in that yet.
He's averaging about 3.34 yards per carry since week 4 when there's been some offensive line injuries. I think only for midseason, it's Deshaun Watson. But he's out for the year now. So I think you got to go a different direction.
Okay. No sentimental laughing face for Deshaun Watson?
No, I am sorry, Deshaun. If you were still out there, I think you'd be fair. But no one's going to pick Deshaun Watson to win Rookie of the Year now. I'm going with Kareem Hunt. Honorable mention to Marshall Lattimore, who has been fantastic this season.
Yes, he's been the #1 corner according to Pro Football Focus this year, so has had a fantastic year. There's Kareem Hunt, his numbers. Of course, coming off that 22-carry, 46-yard performance against Denver. Obviously, it's Denver, pretty good front seven in terms of stopping the run, so may not have to worry about that too much. So Kareem Hunt, our pick to win Rookie of the Year. At the midway point in the NFL season, how about Comeback Player of the Year? Here are some options. We got DeMarcus Lawrence, Todd Gurley, Earl Thomas, somebody else. I think a good somebody else would actually be DeAndre Hopkins.
That's a fair option, although he's about to fall back apart without Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
I think. I am looking at one guy in particular. As good as Todd Gurley's been, as nice as it's good to see Earl Thomas back. Entering this year, DeMarcus Lawrence had 9 career sacks. One of them came last year as he was suspended and battled injury. This year, he has been unbelievable. I am picking DeMarcus Lawrence. 10.5 sacks. He leads the NFL. 3 forced fumbles. Just an incredible year for DeMarcus Lawrence. In a contract year, by the way. About to get paid.
Oh, he's getting money. Big time.
Oh, yeah.
So really has had a great year. Big reason why Dallas has hung in some of the games that they've had so far this year. So DeMarcus Lawrence, our pick for Comeback Player of the Year. How about biggest surprise this year in the NFL? You got Jaguars, Jets, Rams, and Bills here.
Positive surprises only.
Yes, positive surprises only.
Bills get the tier because they lost.
That's true. And
seems fair.
We'll get to biggest disappointments later, too. So I'm going Jaguars.
Look, I have no issue with Jacksonville, especially because I think there's a very good chance that they win the AFC South this year. I think it's between 2 teams, the Jaguars and the Rams.
Yeah.
What the Rams have done under Sean McVay has been very impressive. Maybe it's just that Jeff Fisher's that bad of a coach right now, and his staff was awful.
Jaguars
No wrong answer of those two as far as I'm concerned.
Jaguars are leading the NFL in sacks right now. They have really a premier corner tandem in A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey. Top down, fantastic defense. And, if anybody's going to hold this team back, it's going to be Blake Bortles. But right now, they're masking kind of his lack of quarterback ability right now.
Just not having him throw the football.
To put it nicely,
it works.
exactly.
Hey, if it works, it works.
So, biggest surprise for us at the midway point, we're going Jacksonville Jaguars. How about the biggest disappointment this year? Here are your options.
Can I
Raiders.
pick all of them?
Yeah, exactly. Raiders, Broncos, Bucks, and Giants. One team has more losses already than they had last year.
Ooh, I know who that is.
You know who that is?
It's the Giants.
It's the New York Giants, and that's why they're our pick to be the biggest disappointment this season. Of course, losing Odell Beckham Jr., a big reason why the Giants aren't playing very well, but the offensive line hasn't been good.
Raiders also fall in that boat, though, technically.
That's a good point, too.
If you don't include the playoff. I mean.
But the Giants don't have the most expensive offensive line in the league, whereas the Raiders do, and they're not performing well on the AFC side of things. But we do want to lean on the Giants here because of just the record. Just look at the record. They're 1-6. This is a team that had Super Bowl aspirations coming into this year, and all of a sudden, they're thinking about the draft. So it's a situation with the Giants
Time
where
to tank, baby. Time to
they're
tank.
going to tank. They're going to tank.
Yeah, they're going to tank hard.
So for the Giants right now, they are our biggest disappointment so far this year, although the Bucs, the Broncos, the Raiders could very well be part of that discussion as well.